All right, folks, afternoon. Good to have everybody here, whether in person or online. Good to have you on board. All right, so folks, we are continuing our. Hold on, sound like I can't be on top here. Yeah, well, I like all the when they when I talking to, so let me go that way now. Thanks. Right. Okay, so we are continuing our revision for not just mock, but of course the final exam. So we just kind of we had to wrap. We had to stop at some point with the income statement revision because I mean we can't do one thing for the whole next 2-3 months. We have other things to do, right? We also have budgets and cash projections to do during the Easter break. Right now, during the Easter break, normally I would have put classes earlier in the day, but because of the past, well, not the past few, but the years before that, teachers in school and other lessons teachers used to put their classes earlier too, and then it caused a whole set of clashes. So I'll keep the classes the regular days and times during the Easter break. Let me just double check when Easter is again. I think it starts. Is it 11th? That's when it is. Is it last day? Hold on. School calendar Trinidad 2025. Yeah, there we go. Oh wait, it was here. Okay, crap. Get here. Right. April 11th is the last day of the term, and then April 28th is start back. Oh, so you'd have had two long terms, 14, 14, and 11. Yeah, and then hold on, that's 30 and that's 40. Woo, an academic year is not supposed to exceed 39 weeks. Anyhow, I guess they made an exception. Right, so let's just look at the calendar one more time. So April 11th is here, and then the 28th school starts back. So I believe Easter, like the holidays are the Good Friday and the Easter Monday, right? So we of course won't have class on those days, but we'll have our usual days, right? So Wednesday, Monday, that kind of stuff. I might fling in an extra day somewhere here and there, just to make sure we get the 8 sessions, but I think we will. I don't think it'll be a big problem. All right. Well, it probably will be the Friday the 25th, right? But we'll confirm that near today. But just so you know, days and times will stay the same until exams kick in, right? Crash course, yeah, that coming in well, supposed to be April, but I'm not sure how they're going to work in mock in effect. So I had to see if I could compress them days. Just now, where was the timetable? I know I downloaded this timetable several times. Where's the downloads? CSEC timetable. Oh, right. Right, so let's put that in the lesson plans on the top. Cut and paste, right? Okay, cool. Okay, us. What's going on? I think you got about 60 something. Well, 60 something better than 50 something. So, give thanks and praise. And we go up from there. Right. So the Monday the 3rd is the big exam for most people, which is the English A. And then PoA is the next day. So you all know what's going on that weekend, right? So of course, if you all had to go to English lessons, do your thing, right? Of course, if anybody doing clothing and textiles and theater arts and music and visual arts and these things, do your thing, right? But yeah, from the previous week, because some of you all after mock, that's it. You all don't actually go back to school. Some of y'all might go back for a week and then get quote unquote sent home. But if you all get back here, yeah, the next week is English, isn't it? The 5th, right? Yeah. So yeah, as you go out from Easter, that's it. So yeah, we're gonna have to pack in some extra stuff. Yeah. So probably from that first week, I'll tell you, don't worry to go back to school, to be honest. We're just gonna have sessions. Yeah, I'll see if I can pack in because if the exam is the 6th, yeah, I'm gonna see if I can pack up that weekend for y'all. But again, if anybody, of course, has the English lessons to go to, you do your thing, right? I'll be here doing the things. Anyhow, with that said, one of the earliest topics that most people learn is what we used to call balance sheets, which are now called statements of financial position. And just like with the income statement, they had to give you these formats to memorize and learn off, which, again, that's how it was done back in the day. And I don't think we have to keep doing things as the same way they were done over and over, especially if it doesn't work that well for everybody. A balance sheet is actually a very simple item, but you have to understand what it's supposed to show in the first place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give some notes, right? So again, you don't have to write everything. You can write some, you can write all, you can write none. All right, you decide what you write in, but just make sure and follow what I say in here because it's in your interest. All right. So balance sheets, also called statements of, financial position. All right. So before we take any notes, right? So what I want you to do is again just kind of clear your mind of all this stuff that's packed into it. No, I'm not saying forget everything. Just kind of ignore some of this stuff for now and draw on it when you need to. Because sometimes there's a saying, your car, I mean, you can pour into a full cup, but what's going to happen? Things just going to run out and spill over. There's no benefit to anybody if anything if it just spills over, right? Now, I'm going to ask the question I normally ask to start classes at context. Why do people start a business? To make a profit, right? Now, other than the regular question I would ask, so what's the formula? No. So people start a business, right? So most times people start a business because, like I said, to make a profit. But in order to start the business, what do we need? We need money to start the business. Not just money, but resources. Because you don't just use money, right, in the business. When I say, you don't just get the cash and play with the cash, and the cash does magical things. No. You go and you carry the cash by somebody, or you put it in your bank account and you go with your credit card or your links card, or you make an online transfer, right? The money itself, right, doesn't do anything except store value, and you exchange it for things of value. So in order to have and run a business, you need resources. Cash is one of those resources, but it is what I like to call an intermediary resource or an intermediate resource. What does that mean? Like I said, it stores value until you're ready to exchange it for something to actually use in the business, right? So for example, some of the resources I have here, you guys are sitting on chairs and using tables. So those are items of furniture. Hold on, let me let in Aisha here. Hey, good afternoon, Aisha. How you doing? All right, good to have you on. We're discussing some basic stuff about balance sheets and business, so we didn't start anything. When I say we just started, but you didn't miss much, right? Okay, right. So, like I was saying, what was I saying? Right. We have furniture. So you guys are seeing stuff on the screen. So the TVs here as equipment. The computers are also equipment. I have textbooks. So I have resources specific to my needs for the delivery of my service, right? If you go to like Talia and has some KFC, some of you might order some Domino's. So those food places, they're probably gonna have what? Ovens. They're probably gonna have cold storage. They might have other places. I'm sorry. They have stoves, like ovens and things to bake this stuff, right? So they're gonna have different type of equipment because they have a different type of business. All right. Now, folks. Not hairdressing class, eh? That should have been done before, and I started late, so you had extra time, so you're gonna have to stop that now. And somebody food wide open and getting cool, so that's not a good idea. All right, thank you. All right, cool. Right, so most times people want to start a business and they have some money saved up, and they put that money into the business. That's called investing. And you guys said the word earlier. They invest on whatever the owner invests. Is called capital, right? Now, the word capital can have different meanings in different contexts, right? For example, anybody here doing econ or POB? Yeah? Right. Have you all heard? So you have capital, but they also have different types of capital, right? You might have human capital, which is just people. You might have physical capital, which is what I was calling like the fixtures and fittings, the furniture, the equipment, that kind of stuff. You have financial capital, which is what? Money. Right? Then you also have circulating capital, which is what we might call working capital, which we will get to eventually, right? Those resources that are used on a relatively regular basis and used up, right? Again, relatively regularly. So we have these resources coming from different places. No, sorry, I said different places, but I jumped the gun a little bit, right? If the owner doesn't have enough money from their personal resources and they need to get more, what will they probably do? Borrow. They'll probably borrow. They might go to friends, they might go to family, they might go to a bank, some kind of financial institution, and they say, hey, I have a business plan here, which we will talk about at a different time, right? The business plan. I have this thing, I want to do this thing. This is my plan, these are my financial projections. I have this much money on my own. Sorry, one sec. Right, yeah, sorry. So like I was saying, if the owner or the person starting the business doesn't have enough money, they'll probably want to borrow, right? Now, with all this money coming in and spending it to buy These resources. Now, there's another term we use for resources. It begins with an A. Assets, right? So we use the money provided by capital to buy assets, right? Or even if we don't use all the money and we have some left in cash in hand or cash at the bank, those are still resources or assets. We need a way to keep track. Remember, we're doing principles of accounting, right? The word account, right? So some of you will hear from in the earlies in Form 4 when I explain what the word account means, right? Anybody remember the story? Huh? Record is one meaning of it, yes. There's a slightly more basic way, but that is part of it, yes? Huh? Mm-hmm. Right? Right, yeah. So after CXC finish, I know most of them making plans to go island crashes, right? So let's say your parents say, okay, good, you can go to this party and come 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, that's a kind of dumb time to come home, but still, let me say that's your curfew. And you're bouncing in the house 8 o'clock in the morning with a bottle in your hand with some unknown substance in it, your left shoe's missing, your shirt in a questionable condition, and you're smelling like a kind of fragrance that might come from a little paper tube that is light up. You understand? So they're like, come, sit. And they ask you to account for your whereabouts. Right? Now, in that case, they're not asking you for a journal, they're asking you for no T accounts and debit and credit. They're asking you to do what? Explain where you was, right? The meaning of the word account is to explain, right? And all this other stuff we do to confuse people children about accounting, right, gets in the way of what is at the heart of it, right? It's well meant, and again, people, they teach what they know and they teach what worked for them and they try to modify, but it doesn't work for everybody. What I do doesn't work for everybody either, right? So it's not a condemnation or a casting aspersions or painting with broad strokes and criticizing every other teacher. I'm not doing that. Hey, Gabe, what are you doing? I'm just saying that. Actually, I forget what I was saying. I get lost. Sorry. So, what I'm trying to say is that at the heart of accounting is explaining. And they call it financial accounting. What other thing comes to my mind here about finance? If it the maths? All right, no problem. Finance. To finance something is to find the, not ants, but the money, right? Finance is money, right? So financial accounting is explaining where the money for the business come from and where it gone, right? What was done with it, right? If you want a very simple explanation, that's what financial accounting is, right? So you have, of course, a nice long definition of accounting. It's the process of recording, classifying, summarizing, and then communicating economic information for what purpose? To make informed financial decisions, right? So you have that nice long definition. You have others as well. But at the heart of it, accounting starts with recording, like I said, because if you don't write something down, how are you going to explain anything, right? Now, if it was 1 or 2 transactions, you could probably remember that. Like if I give you all two numbers to remember, if I give you all 12 and 34, right? Not that easy because you could just do 1, 2, 3, 4. You could find out, remember it. But if I then say 12, 34, 3 point, or like anybody try to memorize digits in pi? Uh-huh. What do you know? Circumference diameter. Uh-huh. Right. Okay. You passed where I was already. Okay, that's pretty impressive. What? Okay. that's way more than me. Good job. Yeah.
It's just how I remember it. So I say circumference diameter because it's like something sounds like it.
Okay.
It sounds like one thing.
Interesting. Right. So you use a memory tool. Right. Yeah. Right. So yeah. So I forget what the point of the whole conversation was. Anyhow, you get through? All right. Cool. Enjoy your birthday. All right. Right. So at the heart of accounting is explaining where the money come from, where it goes. Right. So a balance sheet is simply right. So this is a financial statement that shows, right, where the money to start the business came from and what was done, what was done, clearly, what was done with it, right? You could write, yeah, whatever you do, just do the work as well. Hey, Nyla, how you doing? How about Nyla, my class too? Right. For example, what's the primary thing we do with the money from capital? We use it to buy resources or buy assets, right? Right. Sorry, the primary thing that is done sorry, with the money that is provided by the owner or by creditors, right? Now, what I mean by creditors is any entity from which money is borrowed and must be repaid. Repaid, clearly. Right? Any entity from which money is, right? So the primary thing that is done with the money that is provided by the owner and or by creditors is to buy assets, right? Resources for the business, which are called assets. Right. Okay, cool. Okay, so quick question. How are we feeling so far? But the real question I want to ask is it making sense? That's the important part. A lot of y'all and students over the years come into class and have no clue what's going on in accounting school because things just don't make sense. You have a bunch of notes, a set of tables, formats, they have no clue what the format about, but they could memorize it, right? So the thing is, anything you're doing, you need to be able to understand it. Ideally, you need to be able to explain it to somebody else because that's the real test to see if you understand it or not, right? Anyhow. Okay, cool. Right, it's to buy resources for the business, which are called assets, right? Now, of course, we know we have different classifications for assets and liabilities. We have current and non-current. We'll get into that a bit later, right? What we want to be able to do is draw up a very simple balance sheet, right? Now, I know you guys probably have at least one or two formats from school that you need to know, right? And of course, your syllabus is specific about the working capital format. But I'll tell you right now, that is the least intuitive and the least simple way to teach the balance sheet, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go rapid fire with some examples. I'm not going to make you write all of them because it might be quite a few, all right? What I will do, I will do a PDF because I feel taking pics of everything might take a little time, and I want to kind of get a momentum going, all right? Okay, so Google Meet, I didn't forget you. Just give me a quick G if you're good with this stuff so far, right? Not if you've memorized it, I can regret it. Just if you're following what I'm saying, if it's making sense. Right? If you have any questions, any challenges to what I'm saying, that's not a problem. We're here to discuss to get a better understanding, and a dialogue will help that. Okay, cool. Right. Right. So it used to be called a balance sheet because, right, actually, let me pull up something real quick. I'll come back to the notes just now, all right? Hey, Kenny, what's going on? JTT boy. All right. There was a question. I've been trying to record my solutions for the Jan 2024 paper too because I did promise the Jan and May 2024 solutions would be out before March, sorry. But the rate it going, boy, I don't even know. Right. This is an old horizontal format balance sheet, which was brought in the 2024 January exam. I don't know that this is on the syllabus, but they brought it. On the left-hand side, you're going to see assets, right? You're going to see total assets down here. On the right-hand side, you're going to see capital and liability. So again, the assets or the resources of the business and where the money to pay for those resources came from, right? It came from the owner and from entities other than the owner. Oh, did Yuri come? I didn't see Yuri. All right. Hey guys, thanks for the like TikTok. Right. Right, so yeah, and what you're going to notice is that on the left-hand side, the total asset value is the same as the total capital and liabilities on the right-hand side. right? So it was kind of like you'll know a seesaw, like you went to like a park when you were small. So if two people who have exactly the same weight just kind of sat there, it wouldn't go anywhere. It would be in equilibrium. Anybody doing physics? I know equilibrium, right? The somebody clockwise moments is equal to the somebody anti-clockwise moment. That song. Okay, don't worry. Yep. Cool. What was that? Remember that? All right. Right. So that's basically why it was called a balance sheet, right? So if you think about like two things of equal weight, so if you have 517 pounds on this side and 570 pounds on that side, it's in balance, right? Another way to think about it is that, hey, when we add up all these values for all the resources we have, we get this total. And then we add up all the money that came in and we get the same total. So that's why it's called a balance sheet, because the left side and the right side balance. But we no longer use the horizontal format in practice, as far as I know, right? We use a vertical format. So, of course, the vertical format it's pretty expensive vertical-wise, of course, right? So we have to know how to use it and how to interpret it, right? Yeah, because this question was big on interpretation. The rest of that question is just ratios, which we did ratios, right? Okay, right. All right, so I'm gonna give you now, where's that then? All right, a slightly, yeah. Yes, a couple of the girls said there was a lizard that dropped on each student. I'm not sure where it's going, right? Right. Right. So a balance sheet shows the value of the resources or assets of an entity at a particular point in time, and also shows how those resources or assets were financed. That is, i.e., in essence, that is to say, right, where the money to pay for the assets came from, right? Either from the owner via capital, and or from, sorry, I forgot the R in owner, creditors via liabilities, right? So assets, capital, and liabilities, right? Now this understanding this gives rise to the fundamental accounting equation or relationship, which is that assets is equal to capital plus liabilities, right? So it simply means that the value of your assets must be equal to the value of the money your owner put in and any money the business borrowed, right? Because if this money is coming in, it had to go somewhere, and it would go to buying assets, all right? Okay, so I'll give a minute or two if anybody is copying it down. Like I said, you don't have to copy it down, right? You could just check out the PDF at the end. Let me just let Yuri in. Hey, good afternoon, Yuri. How are you going? Good to have you on. All right. Yeah, we kind of revisiting balance sheets from scratch today. All right. So we just kind of just discussed some of the usual kind of preamble stuff. Right? Yeah. Good to have you on, buddy. All right. Cool. So, all right. So a balance sheet shows the value of the resources or assets of an entity at a particular point in time, and also shows how those resources or assets were financed. That is to say, where the money to pay for the assets came from. And it would come from the owner via capital, and you may have money borrowed from entities called creditors, and the money so borrowed is classified as liabilities. All right, and this gives rise, like I said, to the fundamental accounting equation or relation, also sometimes called the balance sheet equation. Right. So that's that piece. They are going to scroll on a little bit. I'm going to do an example. Right. So, for example, right, if so let me say a right? So ABC, right? Started business by investing $10,000, and this was used to buy, let's say, 8,000 worth of equipment, and the remaining money was kept in a bank account, right? Okay, so yes, I know that at the CSEC level, when you go into the exam, most times what you get is you get either a list of balances or a trial balance from which you have to pull out the items and put them in the appropriate layout or presentation, right? But things always start I have to start things very simply, right? So this person started business by investing $10,000, right? So anything the owners, so once you see whoever started business, we know most like that person is the owner, and whatever resource the owner puts in is classified as capital, right? Now, the owner put in how much? 10,000. What was done with the money? That's the question. What was done with the money? They used the money to buy 8,000 worth of equipment, and the remaining money. How much would the remaining money be? 2,000 was kept in a bank account, right? So capital was invested, and we used the money to buy resources, equipment, and we had some left in cash. So both the equipment and the cash should be classified as assets, because those are reasons. Now, I'll give you some more definitions as we go along, right? Because it's important to have these definitions available, because that's how we kind of do things and understand, right? So, so A, B, C. So I'm just going to put balance sheet, because typing out statement of financial is over and over is a bit annoying, right? So balance sheet, right? So as at whatever the date is, okay? Okay, so seeing that it's a simple balance sheet, we're not going to have classifications like current and non-current yet. All right, so we're just going to have assets as the heading. We have two assets. We have what? We have equipment. Right, the equipment was valued at $8,000, and we have some money in the bank valued at $2,000. We add up those two things, we get total assets, right? So you can put that label total assets, which again, like I said, is the slightly more, yeah. Right, now some people like a central thing, some people like a left aligned thing. It does not matter. There's no one right way to present a balance sheet, right? Now, the total assets. So this shows us the resources that the business has, right? So the question then becomes, okay, where did the money to pay for these resources come from? In other words, how were these resources financed, right? And that's why you'll see financed by, and usually it'll say capital, right? Or it might say capital and liabilities, right? So how much is the capital invested? Yeah, correct, 10,000. And I like to show like even if I only have one item, I'll still show a total. Sorry, one sec. All right, and this is yeah, so right, that's a good question. So for those who didn't hear the question, Jaden asks, what else can go in the capital section? Right. So basically, the capital section will record any movements in the investments by the owner. Now, what are those movements? So the primary movement is money coming in. And then when it could come in, it could go out. So we call that drawings, right? Now, again, why do people start a business? To make a profit. So if the business entity makes a profit, the profit goes to the owner. So that's why you'll see net profit being added there. If a loss was made, you would subtract that from the capital, right? Because it means that not enough revenue was made to cover expenses. So that the money to pay for whatever the revenue couldn't have to come from somewhere, and it would come from the capital, right? Right. So what we see in here, and what I'll do is I'll put the borders, right? So that way it might stand a bit more easy to people, because I know that this column here is kind of wide, but that was for the purpose of notes and other sheets coming up. All right. All right. So this is a balance sheet, right? It's a very simple balance sheet. It doesn't have any set of classifications as current and non-current yet. We're going to define all those things as we go along, because it's important that you know what those things are, right? So again, if you're copying it down, cool. If you're not copying down and you're just following along for now, that's cool too. But remember, When I give work to do, you gotta do the work. All right. Okay. Google Meet, just give me a quick G if you guys are good with what's on the screen currently, right? Now, while I wait for the G stuff out, so let me just once again just say outright, your syllabus, as a matter, nah, I was not going to bother with it, right? Your syllabus says that you have to know how to prepare simple and classified balance sheets, right? So simple balance sheets could look like this. It could even include liabilities, but usually simple balance sheets don't have like current and non-current. But again, the definition and understanding of simple and not simple could differ somewhat, right? Now, we are going to expand each of these things, but at the heart of it, what I want you to remember is that this is governed by this relationship. Now, it just so happened that in our example down here, no money was borrowed. So if no money was borrowed, what was the value of liabilities? 0. So what that would mean is that you could even consider that the accounting equation is simply assets equal to capital. The value of the resources is equal to the value of the owner's investment, right? But of course, we know that borrowings is a fact of business. It is a real world phenomenon, and we have to be mindful of it and be able to cater for it and explain. All right. So let me just check to see how much more room I have on the vertical. Okay, no. So I don't have enough room for a second example, right? Right. So the other thing I was going to say is that there is no one right format for a balance sheet. What I mean by that is that yes, your syllabus says you have to know how to do a working capital format, but there have been questions that have asked for, like, they've given you like assets and liabilities, and you have to find capital, because as we know, we could also rearrange this to say assets, right, minus liabilities equal to capital, right? But we'll get to that, right? So we have different ways that the balance sheet can be presented, and it depends specifically on the preference of the person preparing it. If your question gives you a specific instruction, let's say it said prepare the balance sheet and being sure to show working capital, and you don't do that, right? What they will do, you won't get 0, you won't get the whole thing wrong. If you give them a balance sheet, which is what they wanted, you will get marks for what you have, but you will not get the full marks awarded because you will not have followed the instructions. But at the heart of it, what the examiner is testing is your ability to prepare a balance sheet, not just working capital. All right? And like I said, the working capital form was the one taught to me, and I just memorized it because I was good at memorizing stuff. And in teaching PoA, I realized it's not the best one to start off with, because it just looks like it makes no sense. Things are kind of all over the place. Yeah. Premises is like property, land and buildings, that kind of stuff, right? Right. Now, also, as you can see, I only have one column here. You can use one column, you can use 2, you can use up to 3. Whatever the question gives you, right? If they give you 2 and you know a 3-column format, draw in a 3rd column. If they give you 3 and you like a 2-column format, use 2 columns, right? Last July, August, I only had 2 kids in my form 4 PoA class. So I showed them a 3-column, a 2, and a 1 column. And it was the first class that actually preferred a 1 column over the others. I was like, oh, okay. And even for somebody slightly more complicated balance sheets. Up to this, I think the guy still does it. But I know in school, they don't show them the 1 column or like them to use it. So he had to kind of give the teacher what the teacher in school wants. Right. Okay. Enough talk. Let's go on. So notes page 1. All right. So notes 1. All right. Cool. So I hope everybody who is copying stuff don't get a chance to do so. Right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start kind of how I like to say build out the balance sheet. So we're going to start to include a couple more items. And as we go along, we're also going to include the classifications of current and non-current, right? The one thing you all think you need definitions for assets and liabilities, or should we just, no? All right. I feel like I would feel odd omitting it. So let me, I'm just going to do, okay, where's my, do I have enough? Okay, no, so no. Okay, so let's pull that across. So notes 2. Okay, right. Okay. So definitions of assets and liabilities. Okay, cool. So I am gonna give you a couple quick definitions here, and we're gonna do another balance sheet dispute, right? Right. So assets. Okay. Hey, pretend. Okay. So most of us would thought that assets are any resource the business owns and controls and uses to generate revenue and subsequently make a profit. So that's part of the definition, right? So any resource that the entity, the business entity, owns and controls and uses in the process of generating revenue and earning profit, right? So we know we have a long list, right? So we have like Noah asked about premises, right? Premises, land and buildings. You have equipment, furniture. You have inventory, yeah, etc. You have a whole long list. We're not going to list out every single possible, right? But there is one that doesn't fall under the definition of this of assets as it currently is, right? You all know in we have inventory, and under inventory in your balance sheet, what we then have? We have receivables. Yeah, account receivable, or sometimes called debtors or trade receivables, right? So what is that? That's money that is owed to you, right? But is that a resource we own? No, right? And we also don't control the people. So we don't own the people who owe us money, right? The money is owed to us, but it's not something physical yet that we actually could hold, right? I mean, yes, you could hold the money, but it's not there, right? So there's an extension or an addendum to the definition of asset, which is this, right? So an asset is also any benefit that the entity can reasonably, right, expect, to receive in the foreseeable future, right, arising out of a past transaction, right? So this to me specifically applies to receivables, right? So again, the receivable is money you're going to get, right? Money somebody promised to pay you, and they are perhaps contractually obligated because they may have signed something, and you have delivered goods. They would have signed the invoice or the receipt, whatever, right? So you have a way to probably even legally force them to pay you, right? So that's money you can reasonably expect to receive. Right? And of course, it's arising out of a past transaction, all right? Because the credit sale, which would have given rise to the receivable in the first place, would have taken place in the past, all right? Now, liabilities. So a liability, as we know, is any money, right, that the business owes to any entity other than the owner. That's a simple one, right? I'm going to give you a slightly not so simple one. So it's actually going to kind of parallel what we have here, right? So it's any, you're not crying, any, sorry, just give me a minute. Let me just make sure everything okay. Okay, sorry, just making sure. I heard my son crying, but he just being too. Right. Yo. My baby?
Yeah, I know it's they're singing small.
Yeah, Marley's a baby. Yeah. Shiloh is a 2-year-old. Yeah. Right. So any present obligation, right, that the entity has to transfer resources or benefits to a third party in the future arising out of a past transaction, right? So in both of these definitions, you have a kind of present, past, and future and dimensions, it right? All right. Your fave, Ariel, how you doing? Afternoon, right? But of course, you are under no obligation to use any definition I give you. If you have stuff from school you know already and you're like, by all means, it's most likely more than suitable and sufficient for the purpose of CSEC PoA, right? All right. So again, I'm just giving you a different flavor to it, right? Okay, so all right, so for example, what we could have loans, right? And of course, we could have different types of loans. You have mortgages, you have different things. Oh, okay, cool, right? Yeah, loans. You can hardly ever, right? They might more get a definition in the paper two, which I find to be stupid. They should ask for definitions in paper one, right? Sometimes you just have big calculations in paper one kind of math. Like, what's the point of this? Anyhow, right? Not receipts, trade payables. Sorry, right? So payables, trade payables, or also called right? Accounts payable. Anybody else can think of any other? Oh, bank overdraft, right? So we're not going to define each and every one of these because then that would take us way too long, right? Etc. Right? So we know we have lots of. Oh, sorry. I will put one more. Bank overdraft, accrued expenses, etc. Okay, cool. Okay, it's only here fun. Oh, wow! I got a. Uh-huh. Oh, and then there goes my wife dropping my steps onto lessons. Okay, well, this is going to be fun, right? Okay, people in class, are we okay with the definition? When I say okay, I'm not asking if you've memorized them and if you can regurgitate them right now. Just if you're able to follow the explanation, right? Okay, Google Meet. You see? Okay, oh, who's that? Oh, hey, Janaya. Okay. All right. Hey, good afternoon, Janaya. How are you doing? Good to have you on. We're doing some we jumped all the way back to balance sheets and we kind of starting from scratch, but moving at a what I think is an accelerated pace, which might be true, right? So you didn't miss too much. We had a previous page of notes talking about what balance sheets are, right? My take on it, and we had a very simple balance sheet starting off here. But I also wanted to define assets and liabilities, and I'm also going to do another simple balance sheet below here, right? So that's basically all we've done so far. So hopefully, I will send a PDF after class. So hopefully you could just take a look through it and see how that goes, right? Okay, cool. Right. So let me pull up that stuff, right? So do I want to put this? No, I don't. I know what I want to do. Give me a sec. Right. I want a next text box. That long. That long? Yeah. Okay, cool. Right. Okay. So example 2. Right. So ABC started business with by investing 10, let's say 10,000, not 10. Okay, $60,000 of her own money, and also acquired a bank loan of 40,000 to use in the business as well, right? With this money, she purchased. Oh, sorry. She purchased the following. Oh, okay, thanks. What is going on? Yeah, we purchased the following items. All right, cool. So let's say equipment to the tune of $25,000. Then we had vehicles to the tune of let's say $35,000. So that's 60. Inventory to the tune of let's say 20,000. Nah, that's all I want. That's all I want for now. 20 boy. 35, okay, so I'll change this to 30. Okay, cool. Right. The remaining money was kept in a bank account. Right. So if you do some quick maths, 25 and 35 is 60. 60 and 30 is 90. And she put in 60 and borrowed the extra 40 they put in. 60 and 40 is 100. And out of the 100, we kind of spent 90. So how much we would have left? We'd have 10. The remaining money, which was 10,000, was kept in a bank account. Okay, so we're just gonna kind of redraft the balance sheet down here, right? Sorry. Okay, so what assets do we have? We have equipment, 25,000. All right. What else we have? We have vehicles, which is 35,000, and we have inventory, which is how much? 30,000, and the remainder is kept in the bank. That was 10,000. Cool. Right. So that's this here. This on top here is a list of the. Actually, you know what we're gonna do? Let's indent that a little bit. Right. So we have the assets here. All right. And the value of the assets totals 100,000. Let me actually shift this down as well. Right. So it's financed by capital and liabilities. Right, so the capital invested was how much? It was 60,000. And the bank loan, right, was 40,000. And 60 and 40 is 100. Total capital and liabilities. Right, cool. And what do we notice about these two figures here? Total assets is what to total capital and liabilities. It is equal to. Right, which once again just kind of reinforces that the accounting equation is what it is, right? The money put into the business, something was done with it. We spend some and we have some left, right? The things on which we spend it are resources, which we call assets, and even the money we have left over is still an asset because it's something we can use to pay for expenses, buy more assets, etc. All right? Let me zoom out a little bit in case anybody wants to see the question and well, yeah. Can I pull this here? Let's pull it down. Okay. Maybe I could pull it out a little bit. Yeah. Let's keep that at the back. All right, cool. I think we're okay there. All right. Okay. So again, the concept I'm just trying to once again reinforce here is that the owner, right, would put in some money via capital, and they may borrow some more money as well to put in if they didn't have enough. So of course, before you start the business, you will probably identify the assets you want to buy. You'll say, look, okay, like for me, I say, okay, look, I wanted to have 12 students, so I need 12 chairs. If it's 2 students per desk, I need 6 desks. I need one for myself, a couple extra chairs in case anything. I want 2 screens, I want 2 laptops, I need some mics. And I'll go and price all this and then see how much money I had to spend, right? If I have enough, which fortunately back then I did, right? I wouldn't, huh? No. The only kind of money I borrowed was downstairs here was actually just clear. So this room wasn't here. My brother's apartment wasn't there either. So my dad built both of those things, but he built this one in 2010 for me, and then that one in 2019. Um, so that was kind of like a loan, but how we accounted for it was I just rent here. So I didn't buy this piece of the property, right? But I paid him back through a rent basically, So yeah. So long story short, yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's a business expense, and then they also get a little something. So yeah. So because at that point in time, I didn't have a wife or child or house, so I had no rent to pay. So I had money saved up, from teaching, and then when I had lessons, and I went to work somewhere else. Um, and then when I went there, my savings went down because I had no extra income by the lessons. So yeah. Anyhow, right. Where was I? There was I. Cool. Okay, Google Meet. If you guys are good with this balance, you just kind of give me a quick genie chat, please, and tax. If you need me to re-explain anything, give me an R. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to ask. Right? I know one or two. I think it was Jordan too was very eager to get the balance sheets re-explained. So if you have any questions, anybody, let me know. Right? In class, people, I know some of them are a little bored with the simple stuff on the screen, but yeah, anybody have any questions? Are they sure? Are they good? People so good they're sleeping anyway. What pressure? All right. So with that now, what I want to do on the next page is now I want to talk about current and non-current, right? Because as the list of assets grows, now there is some balance sheets don't have that separation, right? They simply list them. Now there is a particular sequence. There are two particular orders or sequences that you have to know and be able to list your assets in. It's in order of permanence, right, and liquidity. So permanence, what does permanent mean? It means long lasting. So you'll start with your most permanent assets first and then go down, right? Now, some teachers have a list of things, a specific list that you have to put in that order. And some people put equipment before vehicles, and some people do vice versa, right? I say it depends, right? If it is, for example, you have a delivery van that works a couple times a week, but your equipment working like 12 hours a day, chances are your equipment might probably run down faster than the vehicle. But if you're in Trinidad and driving on certain roads, chances are your truck might last a year, right? It depends on the roads and the potholes, right? But as we know, Trinidad roads not exactly top notch. It should not matter. It should not. Once you put right premises or land, yeah, for sure, right? Another one is goodwill, but I don't know that you guys know. Yeah, that's more of a partnership thing in Form 6. So that's actually what we call an intangible non-current asset, right? Intangible means it has no physical property, right? Yeah, you can't touch it. You can't drop it on your foot, as I heard a fella say at a conference once. And I like it, so I teeth it, right? Anyhow, right. So I want to talk on the next page about the classification. Sorry. So permanence is with the longest lasting assets first, ending with the least permanent, which is cash. Now it's the least permanent and most liquid, right? Remember we did liquidity when we did ratios? What is liquidity? The ability of an entity to repay its current liabilities using its current assets. But the more kind of immediate definition of liquidity is the ease of conversion of an asset to cash, or the nearness to cash, right? How easy is it to put this asset, to sell this asset off and get cash for it? Because at the end of the day, cash, as they say, cash is king, right? If you have cash, you could buy anything, you could pay off anything. Otherwise, if you don't have cash, you might have to kind of barter with the things you have and hope that the person accepts your terms, or that they don't provide, what's the word, unreasonable terms or values for your assets, right? Okay, all right. So we're going on to our next page. No, our next page of notes. Okay, cool. Current and non-current classifications. So, all right. Now there are some more technically involved definitions of these things, but I think I'll hold off. Well, first of all, I can't remember. For the is the current assets and liabilities, the ones that are more technically defined, and anything that is not current is classified as non-current, so which is kind of convenient, right? Anyhow, so the current and non-current classifications for assets and liabilities. Liabilities. Right. Okay, there you go. Right. Okay, so this has to do with the frame of time for which we expect an asset to be of benefit, or for which yeah, okay, cool. Now, we have a specific time horizon. We have a specific length of time that we use to distinguish, which is 1 year. So any asset that is used up or converted to cash within 1 year or less is classified as current, right? So for example, your inventory, you expect to sell inventory within less than a year. You hope, right? You don't buy stuff and say, well, I'm going to hold this for 6, 7, 8, 9 months. No, you want to sell it as fast as possible, because why? When you sell your assets, you earn money, and when you collect money, what's happened? Then you could buy other stuff, make investments, and the business could grow, right? Well, if you use the cash properly, right? Inventory. Now, when you sell your inventory, you get your cash, right? But sometimes you sell it on credit. And when you sell it on credit, we thereby create a receivable, right? Which again, we hope to collect within less than a year. Usually you want to collect your receivables in a couple of weeks, maybe a month, depending on the industry, maybe 3 months, right? And of course, your relationship with your creditor, the person who sold to you or from whom you bought on credit in the first place, right? And of course, you have bank and cash, which are used up on a regular basis. The money doesn't stay the same. It fluctuates, right? And of course, we have a couple other ones we fling in there from time to time, right? So current assets are those that are expected to be used up or converted into cash within 1 year or less, right? So we have our inventory, receivables, right? Receivables, prepaid expenses, accrued revenue, cash at bank, cash in hand, right? You also have short-term investments, right? Those are the usual ones, right? Right. Current liabilities are those that are expected to be repaid or liquidated, repaid within 1 year or less, right? So of course, you know the usual list. You have your accounts payable, you have your bank, right? Bank overdraft, you have accrued expenses, prepaid revenue, and we have something, I don't know if you guys might have seen this, but it came in a couple of exams within the last 10 years, I think, right? The current portion of a non-current loan, right? Let me explain that one real quick. So, as you probably know, right, some loans you could take for 1 year or less, and some loans you might take for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years, right? Those long ones are called mortgages, right? Now, do you think a bank would lend you, like, let's say $10 million for 30 years and only take payment after 30 years? No. They want you to probably pay every month, maybe every 3 months, maybe every 6 months, at least once a year, right? So every year, so let's say you borrow $10 million for 10 years, and you have to pay back $1 million every year, okay? No, because you'll have to pay back more than 10 million. Because if you borrow 10 million and pay back 10, then the bank didn't earn any interest and they not bought our life. If you borrow 10 million for 10 years, you could borrow 50 million, 100 million. Once the bank have the liquidity they lend to you, and you have your collateral, they wouldn't lend it to you just so. You'd have to show what you want it for, and you probably would have to have collateral to back it up. So in the event you don't repay, they could take the assets that you used to buy it and then sell it off to get back the money. So you have to have security or collateral. Yeah, but yeah, well, the place I was working when I left Fatima before I started this lesson was a small finance company. It was founded by 5 guys who used to work in RBTT's merchant bank, including a former managing director and some VP of risk and VP of this and that, right? Business development. And basically they brought in, I think, was it 10 million each? Long story short, they had a capital about somewhere between 50 and 100 million, which they use as loans. So they lend that money to people, well, entities, businesses, right? So they lend the money, and then they would charge them, let me say, 8% interest, right? But then what they would do is they would create investments for people to invest in, but they will pay them like a 5 or 6% interest. So if you earn an 8% and you had to pay back 5 or 6%, you still make a profit, right? That's called the spread. And what you would do is you would also, there's something called gapping, which is where you would take people's money, right? And when they take their money, you're not just keeping it there in a bank account. You're lending that too. And when you lend to somebody else, guess what you do? You create investments from that. So that's how it goes. But then you have to be able to pay back people money at some point in time. So you have something called gapping, which is where you time the money inflows and outflows to be able to pay back whoever they pay back. It's pretty interesting, right? No, they were acquired by Grace Kennedy, actually before I even joined them. But each of the guys eventually left. There was a guy who actually was working there, like an assistant, who actually, we both went to the same primary school and secondary school. He was 1 year below me. And then he ended up leaving to go do his MBA. And then one of the other guys left, and he's now the president of, I think, another banking entity. His brother is soon to be the prime minister. Different story. And then, yeah, everybody bit by bit left, working different places. But they're all still in finance or insurance or something like that. Yeah. Right, sorry. Right. So, yeah, So the current portion of a non-current loan. Right. So let's say you borrow 10 million for 10 years and you pay back 1 million every year. So what happens is even though you have something to pay back over 10 years, which is more than 1 year and hence will be non-current, every year you have 1 million due. So in that year, 1 million out of that non-current item becomes current, right? So even when you now borrow the loan, right, in 1 year you have to pay back 1 million. So even though you borrowed 10 million over 10 years, out of that 10, 1 will be current and 9 will be non-current, all right? Again, you probably had to see numbers for that to make more sense, right? Okay, so non-current assets are those that are expected to last for longer than 1 year. So for example, for this, so you have, like I said, premises, right, land and buildings, vehicles, what else? Furniture, fixtures and fittings. Fixtures, fittings, furniture. Anybody? Anything else? Long-term investments. That's one you don't see often, but it has come. I've seen it in the 2010s. It might have been like a Jan 2014 or something. Equipment. Machinery. Or they like to put plant and machinery. Right? Non-current liabilities are those that are expected. Equipment is non-current usually. Now it depends. Okay, that's a good question. So for example, it's contextual, right? If let's say you have a okay, let's say we're talking about like a construction company, right? So we might think of a drill like equipment, right? But for them, they might use that drill every day, and in 6 months that drill might be dead, right? So depending on the industry, certain assets that might conventionally be non-current might be considered current, right? Expected to be repaid over periods longer than 1 year. For example, a mortgage, a debenture, a bond. These are all forms of long-term loans, right? They're just called different names. right? So long story short, that 1 year time period, that is your kind of cutoff point. So anything that doesn't last past 1 year is current. Anything that lasts longer than that is non-current. All right. So yeah. So there was some more metrics that the standard gave, but again, it was for them, and I can't remember the for them, so I'm not gonna try and pull it up and look at it now. All right. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to create a little example. So let me just get a little space check. Okay. I think I have a few more lines I could push this down. I think I'm gonna have to. Right. Okay. That's it. All right. Right. A bank loan. Okay, so I'm gonna put in some extra information, right? So a 5-year bank loan. In the business, right? With this money, she purchased the following items: equipment, vehicles, inventory. Right. Let's get to the bank, right? I want this somehow, right? Right. So out of the 40,000, out of the 40,000 for the 5-year bank loan, 5,000 is due for repayment within the current year. Okay, so now what I'm going to do using this information, I've just kind of repurposed and rejigged here. I'm going to create a new balance sheet with the classifications of non-current and current, right? So the order that I'm going to be doing this in is in order of permanence, right? Which means starting with the longest lasting non-current items first and then dealing with the current, right? Okay, so I think I may have to do a split here. All right. Okay. Yeah. So maybe I might have to do. Okay, I might have to do that. Oh, it's not gonna fit on the same page. Oops. That might be a problem. All right. You know what? I'll make it fit. It's not a problem. Okay. Cool. Yeah, no, see, that's fine. Sorry. Excuse me 1 sec. You said F4 twice. No? Okay, cool. Right, so let's see if this works. I saw this on TikTok today, but I didn't pay attention to it enough. So, yeah. Let's see if it works. All right. Okay, so we're going to start off with non-current assets. Okay, it didn't work. All right. Okay, so hold on. Let me actually undo that. Right. So non-current assets. Okay, so in this list here, with this money, she purchased the following items, right? Equipment, 25, vehicles, 35. So those first 2 items are the only non-current. So equipment and then vehicles, right? Vehicles. Right, so 25,000. And then we have 35,000. Oh, I know what I want. Okay, I'm actually going to insert another column here to show you a 2-column format. Right, so yeah, usually when we start having the non-current and current classifications, that's usually where multiple columns come into play. Right. So usually we use the left column, the column closest to the words, to put the values for the items, the individual values. Sorry, 1 sec. Sorry. No. Right. Right, so and then we put the subtotal here. Right, now for the current assets, all right, what do we have? We have inventory and bank. What are our values there? 30,000 and then 10,000. Right, cool. Right, so I didn't change this stuff, right? 60 and 40. So it looks like she used the capital to buy the non-current and then the banknote to buy the current stuff. Cool. So when we add up these two things here now, what do we get? 60 and 40 will give us 100. Oh, wow. Yeah. And that would be, of course, total assets. Right. So the question becomes now, okay, where did the money to pay for these assets come from? Right? You have all these nice assets, these nice resources. How did you pay for it? Right. Right. Capital and liabilities. All right. So the capital invested by the owner. Right. Now you don't have to put that whole label. Right. Now, usually because it's just one item, I'll put it in the right column anyway. But if you want to maintain like a kind of consistency, you could put it here. You could put 60,000 here and then just do a subtotal and put it across, right? You don't have to. You could just put the 60 across here. That's not a problem, right? Now for your liabilities, we're going to start with the non-current. All right, liabilities, sorry. Right. Right, so check this. This is where the trick comes in, right? So you had a 5-year bank loan of 40, right? Right, so you have your 5-year bank loan, right? But it was 40,000, and out of that 40, this last sentence says that, hey, 5,000 is due for repayment within the current year. And if it's due for repayment in the current year, it's a current liability. So the remaining portion will be what you call the, non-current, right? Right, so that's 35,000. Again, I only have one, but I could pull it across. Right. And we have current liabilities. Right, so for that, we just have the current portion of non-current loan. That's 5,000. 5,000, right? Right. So the little weakness in the two-column format is that it's a little challenging to show total liabilities, right? Now you could do it in this column, 35 and 40, and 5 is 40, and then pull it across, but it will kind of destroy the consistency with the above things, right? So you have your 100 there, right? This, of course, is total capital and liabilities. Right, I'll put some lines there. All right. Right. So as you can see here, we have used the classifications of non-current and current to separate the assets and liabilities, right, into those specific, what you call it, sections, classifications. Right. Now the indenting thing, you can use that. It's something I have recently picked up using, but you don't have to. Okay. I just kind of like how it looks sometimes. Other times I like, nah, just put everything left aligned. All right. So again, up here, right? So you have your non-current assets, then the subtotal for that section, current assets, subtotal there, and then your grand total, right? Down here for capital. So again, capital, you can have more details there, especially if you have to do it after you've done an income statement or you have the net profit and drawings, right? So you can have a working in that particular column there for your non-current and your current. So again, with the two-column format, the major weakness is that you can't show total liabilities. You could show it, but let me show you what happens, right? Give me one sec. All right, so you could show it by doing 35 plus this, which is 40. You'd have to label it total liabilities. And then you would add 60 and 40 and get 100. Right? And then this would be total. Right? So it is possible. I didn't mean to make it sound like it was impossible, but it does kind of break the consistency with the presentation of the other totals and subtotals, right? Because yeah, well, you had your grand total here from these two subtotals, and you have your subtotals, right? And it's looking here like you had, well, 60 plus 35 plus 5 is 40, which is wrong, right? But again, someone looking at a balance sheet should know, or at least have a working knowledge of how things get put together, right? So again, you can have this, right? But I know for some people that might be a problem. So if you want to use the other thing I did before, where, hold on, let me just actually, sorry, no, yeah. Yeah, so if you want to just kind of go back to this, that's perfectly fine as well. If you want to include this as an extra level of detail, you can do that too. Again, there's no one right way to do a balance sheet. All right, okay, in class, people, are we okay with what's on the screen currently? Any questions, anybody, anything? No? All right. Google Meet, if you guys are good with that particular item, just kind of give me a quick G in the chat. If you need me to re-explain, that's not a problem. All right. How my friend, I know Jordan was the one who was talking about. So Jordan, hold on. Yeah. So Jordan, how are we going there? We getting through? Sorry. Cool. All right. So I'll give anybody who's copying stuff a minute or two if they're doing that. Just give me 1 sec. I want to just actually. Right, yeah. So when I do the PDF, it'll all fit on the same page, and pieces wouldn't be here and there. Yeah, go ahead. Right, good question. So we borrowed 40,000 as part of as a 5-year bank loan, right? So we have 5 years to pay it back, so therefore it is a non-current liability. But based on the information in the question, it says out of the 40,000 for the 5-year bank loan, 5,000 is due for repayment within the current year. So out of this 40, which is a 5-year loan, right? Out of that 40, 5,000 is actually due for repayment, like in the current year, in less than a year. So if something is due to be paid within less than a year, it is classified as a current liability. So it means that out of the 40, right, 5,000 is current, and the remainder, which would be the 35,000, is non-current. So that's what I was saying with this item here, right? The current portion of a non-current loan. When you borrow money, right, even if it's over 10, 15, 20, 25, 50 years, right? Okay, cool, that's non-current. But what happens is every year a portion becomes repayable. So when whatever portion of the non-current loan is repayable within the year, that portion has to be taken out from the non-current and reclassified as current. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Right, good. Right, young lord. Never got a thank you. Got a grade 1 from all your accounts. Hey, young lord, you're most welcome. Thanks for using the videos. All right, and congrats on your hard work and your good grade. What are you up to now? You're in Form 6 doing CAPE accounts, or you left accounts behind, or you're working? What's the story? Right. Okay. I'm doing a class too, so I'll check your comment in a little while, right? Okay. All right, guys. So I know I haven't given you all much to do, so what I want to do now is I want to give you all a question to try. All right. So it will probably be a similar question. But it's just kind of different figures. So more or less you'll have this to do. And again, if you want to, when you come down to this section here, show it like that, or show it like this. Either one is perfectly fine by me, right? Okay. Now I know we don't have too much time again, but again, I did plan to spend a few days on this topic. So today was the kind of intro and recap of the basic stuff. When we come on Monday, we will be tackling some participle questions, right? And I will show you how to do the net asset presentation, which is where we have assets minus liabilities. Should I show that boy? No, I feel like that might be a bridge too far. So let me just copy and paste this page. All right. So this is actually RQ1. So RQ stands for review question. So what I'm going to do is delete that. Right. So and then what I'm going to do here as well is push this down. All right. So RQ1. Okay. So yeah, where you could do it. Print the question. Which page? Oh, you don't have a page? All right, I'll see what I can do. This is the hardest part, the name. Be senior, right? Started a business by investing, let me say, 180,000 of money, and also acquired a 15-year bank loan in use of 70,000. With this money, she pretty fine. So let's say we have machinery, right? So 180 and that's 250. Ooh, all right. So let me say 125,000. That's two. Oh, that's half, right? Vehicles, 50,000. Right. So one. So I have 250, right? One second. Sorry, confused. Inventory was 50,000. No, okay, just use 50. Okay, so 125 and 50 is 175. That's 225 here, right? So that's 200. And out of the 70,000 for the 15-year loan, okay, cool. So basically, what I want you to do. All right. Let me see if I could do up a little format here. Well, when I say format, I won't. I'll just do like a table. Right. Cool. But I will need to probably give you a little more space on the vertical. Oh, wait, that has to come out too. So let's sit it here. That's how much I put? Really? Okay, cool. Let's see what comes out first. I'll print some. was just watching the figures to make sure they make sense. If you want the format, I can print one. I just say one for more. If you want the format to fill in, I could give you one. All right, cool. Anybody else want the format to fill in? Anybody want the format to fill in?
Yeah, so
1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Let's do one for everybody. How about that? Oh no, it's 11. All right, but we'll show more is gone, so it's just 10 more to do, right? Example.
yes.
Yeah, we have a little vertical problem, but. Right. Well, let me see. I'll leave up the assets for now. Is the assets part you wanted or the libraries part? Is the upper part or the lower part you wanted? Yo.
Let's open inventory.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's inventory at the date, so it's just whatever inventory date. Yeah. So yeah. Sorry, what? No, this isn't the answer.
I know.
Oh,
But I'm saying
it don't matter.
Okay, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's like
The only hard and fast one is if you have land and buildings or premises, that goes first. I could find the code. Okay. Yo. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Looking right here.
It's so good.
Yeah. Go. Let's go.
What's that? It's supposed to.
Yeah. Because Jigsaw's not asked, it's
125. Right, but it says the remaining money was cut to the bank.
Oh, so bank.
You have to figure it out. So look, the owner put in 180 and she borrowed 70, right? So the total money coming in was 250. So if you spend 200 to buy those assets, the remainder is 50. But I did it in the example. How are you supposed to know to do that? That's my question. Non-current assets. Right, so we had two non-current assets. What were they? Machinery, which was 25,000, and then vehicles, 50,000. And we have current, which is inventory and bank. 180. That is the 15. Right. This one.
Yes, it is. Sure. No one's serious. No one's serious. If you said anything, that's fine. You never.
Oh.
Stay and watch your game. You drive it. It's Frank's birthday.
I got sick.
I have Jack's.
Let's go a little bit. Let's go in one more.
Well, we used to drive.
Okay. Right, so we have any non-current assets, machinery and vehicles, 125, 150 is 175. Current assets, inventory and bank, 25 and 50. You have to kind of do a little calculation to get the bank. Right, the capital was 180. Non-current was 70, but out of that 70, 7 is due within the current year. Which means you have to pull 7 out of the 70 and put it down in current. And the remaining 63 is non-current. And when you add these three things, you get the 250, which ties back to the assets on top. Okay, Google Meet, just give me a quick Genie chat if you're good with that, please, and thanks. If you need me to re-explain anything, it's not a problem. Let me know. I know it's 6 o'clock and I had a run, but let me know if you have a question. I'll try and answer quickly, right? Alright, so 5 out of about 8. Alright, cool. Alright, and in class people, are we okay with that? Any questions, anybody?
No.
No? Okay. Alright, yeah. Yeah. Where I got 180? For what? Okay, did you subtract liabilities on top?
You see what we did?
Right.
If we did
Uh-huh.
non-current assets, current liabilities, less long-term.
Right. So you guys, okay, yeah, you're the new working capital format. That's fine. Yeah. So when I come Monday, I'll do that one. Yeah. So working capital is current assets minus current liabilities. So they can ask you to show that in the balance sheet. So it's just a rearranging of the sequence of the items.
If they don't ask for anything, you can do it either way.
You can use whatever format you want if they don't ask for it. Alright, so Google Meet, I'll go on there. I'll see you guys on, well, some of you all formats in about half an hour. The rest of you all have a good weekend. And of course, if you have any questions and you get to ask during class, please feel free to message me. Alright, later. Alright, DeMarco. Boy, DeMarco, we finished that Monday, boy. We spent 3 days on that, 3 or 4 days. I did it already. The live should still be up, DeMarco, if it's still there. So just check on the channel and back to the lives, or just